Hi, this is Jim McKelvey, and I'm here with my buddy, longtime friend, Howard Lerner, who appears to be in an underground bunker.
That's right.
Uh,
It's my concrete wall.
yeah, looks like you're really prepping hard there.
I know.
So do we need to be 30 feet underground? And how was that old, ballistic missile silo that you live in?
Exactly. I'm sharing my rations with a radioactive rat, but it's we're getting glowing reviews.
So, for those of you who don't know Howard is a complete badass in my world. He started a company called Kaldi's Coffee. It's the biggest coffee company in St. Louis, and they're now national and have a couple of international locations. And amazingly, didn't get their asses kicked when Starbucks moved to town. Now, if you think about, sort of the tale I tell at Square of when Amazon copied Square products and was gonna, kill Square. Like, it's terrifying to be attacked by Amazon. But if you were a coffee company in the days before Starbucks came to your town, it was terrifying to have Starbucks come to town. So Howard basically stared down the largest predator in his world, which was Starbucks. He's got some great stories about this, but Howard is just also just a total badass as far as I'm concerned, because not only does he keep radioactive rats with him, but he's also had this strangely varied career. And I think if you do a bunch of different things, you end up with a bunch of crazy stories. Howard's done that. And so we're all locked in. And if we weren't locked down, I'd be having lunch with Howard right now. So instead of me, you get a radioactive rat. But
that's awesome.
So how is the coffee business? Like, I know you're not in it anymore. You kind of sold it, but you also kind of haven't sold it because you still own part of the real estate. So, I mean, how bad is it?
Well, it's pretty bad. It's bad for businesses that don't have drive-throughs. So what's interesting is, talk about Starbucks a lot, is coffee is a convenience product for certain customers. You want to, think of coffee as three things. It's a specialty food, right? A specialty beverage that you have beautifully made, and the origin of this coffee, and that's a very high-end product. It is a comfort food. It is a food that a product that brings you back to your youth, and maybe you made coffee for your parents, or you have some memory of family gatherings or something like that. And it's also a caffeine delivery system. So it's a drug. It's really the only unregulated drug in our culture. Think about it that way. We have, you can go get a buzz at 7 or 8 at the coffee shop, and that helps.
That's true, I guess. You at least got to be have an older brother before you start drinking,
right?
But
so tapping into either three of those points of entry for your customer is important, and you never know what the world is going to throw at you. When it throws a pandemic at you, well, you're a caffeine delivery system. You're not you're not really seeking maybe you're seeking that comfort, but you can get that at home, but you're really seeking that caffeine. You're seeking a product that it gets you out of the house, and maybe you don't want something that's going to kill you, like catching a virus by walking into a crowded shop. So the drive-through has really been great for Starbucks, and those locations are thriving. Anything with the drive-through is doing well. Fast food restaurants are doing really well.
So are fast food restaurants doing materially better than they were before?
Materially better, because they're capturing a lot of that restaurant business that they lost to, everything from fine dining to, fast casual, where, you walk in.
So I've had a restaurant in my neighborhood, House of India, that has actually got their their curbside pickup so good that it's now better than eating in the restaurant. Because my wife and I used to always go there, and
Right.
now, like, we're so close to this place, I can literally drive in. I don't even think I have to stop. They will like hand me the bag of palak paneer, through an open window. I've already taken care of the payment, and
Right.
boom, gone.
So it's that understanding that technology, it's that, and all these businesses have to learn to become technology businesses. And a Kaldi's, a very successful business, but a Kaldi's has really been built on this relationship, this experience in a crowded shop where you hear the music and you see the people around you, and the barista knows your name and they know what you're going to order, and you have this wonderful experience. But then that's taken away.
Yeah.
And they don't even have online ordering until just last week. It
So
was
it's the opposite of the bunker.
the shops shut down, the stores shut down completely.
Are they going to survive?
Yeah, they'll survive, but they'll be a different company when they come out. Like many will. They're resilient, but they're going to have to come up. They're going to have to adjust their value proposition, their unique value proposition, and that unique value was pretty much based on coming in and having a great experience. While they did sell a lot of whole bean coffee, that's kind of keeping them going while they were shut down. But as the stores open, they're doing that same thing that you're describing with House of India near you. You have to place your order somehow online. They had to create that process.
So when I hear you use a phrase like unique value proposition, it reminds me that you actually did something that I consider impossible.
What's that?
Which you tried to teach entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So you
Not
taught
a clear highlight.
you got to tell the story. I tell the story in my book, but like I couldn't capture the half of it in when I was sort of transcribing your words. So Howard, for those of you who didn't know, was a faculty member at Washington University's business school, where he taught a course called So You Wanna, spelled W-A-N-N-A. So You Wanna Be an Entrepreneur.
Right.
And I actually guest lectured one of your classes, and
Yes, you did.
Got a bunch of eye rolls. And tell us what happened. Were you able to teach it?
No. But there's more. You can teach what entrepreneurship is. You can show examples. You can, point to Joseph Schumpeter and talk about how the flow of change replaces the previous processes with new, and that's kind of entrepreneurship. That's really kind of business history, but it's very difficult to show someone what creating something is when that thing hasn't been created yet. So I loved in your book. So your book had a really great point, and this was great. It's a great book, by the way. If you haven't had a chance to read it. Jim's book.
We're going to edit that part out.
Innovation.
Shameless plug.
Entrepreneurship is about creating something new, whereas business is about copying something old. And if you want to make a whole bunch of money, don't be an entrepreneur. That's not it can work out great. That's great. It worked out for you. It worked out for me. It's great when it does, but don't beat a new path if you don't have to, and that's really one of the messages of your book, and so you're teaching these students, many of whom are business students. It was actually an arts and sciences course.
Oh, sorry.
Trying to stem the leak of students into the business.
Trying to prevent them from becoming business students.
Right.
They thought they'd teach you. It's like, you want to study business? Here, look at this guy.
Yeah. So so it's very challenging to teach someone how to be an entrepreneur, because they, no matter how badly they wanna, and so. But what I found was that people do naturally copy, and that's great. That should be your first. If you want to be successful in business, you should want to find things that you can copy, invent as little as you can, and take on, only invent when you absolutely have to, because it is the most inefficient, most difficult, frustrating, and ultimately unsuccessful way to go. So the students were very good at copying. In fact, many of my entrepreneurship students ended up going into the coffee business, starting
copied you.
Copying me. I talked a lot about coffee because that was what I did.
You're trying to teach entrepreneurship, which is like doing something new.
Yeah.
You used yourself as an example of someone who had done something new, and their response to this was to copy what you'd done.
Right. It's like you're teaching these students, and you're pointing the board, and then you realize they're not really looking at the content of your words. They're looking at your finger. They're staring at your finger, and that's if they learn something and experience some success as a result of that, that's great. The goal is to be successful and to learn. But to answer your question, no, you can't teach entrepreneurship any more than you can teach somebody how to invent something. You can teach them the process to bring an idea to the market, but you can't teach someone how to ideate that innovation.
Yeah. So what can you do to strengthen? You tell us your story. You were a journalist. You had no background in coffee. There were not a bunch of coffee shops around before. So this was pre-Starbucks. This is before this whole coffee culture thing happened.
Correct.
What got you into coffee? Like, what was the thing?
Well, so, I love journalism, and my business partner, Suzanne Langlois, we met in journalism school, in graduate school in journalism, and we both worked as journalists following graduation. But we found ourselves being frustrated because, journalism was kind of print journalism. We were print journalists, newspaper writers. That field was kind of, the internet was becoming popular, and 24/7 broadcast news was popular. And reading a newspaper is work. It burns more calories than sitting and passively watching TV. So that's just watching a readership compress. And we didn't want to. I certainly don't have the face for broadcast, so my options were limited. So we thought, well, wouldn't it be great to make some news rather than to cover the news? And that's really was Suzanne's perspective. She's like, well, let's be on the other side of this. Let's do something that's interesting instead of.
So you were going to kill somebody?
We're gonna kill the free coffee at the Jiffy Lube. That's what we're gonna do. We're going to kill 50-cent coffee. We wanted to create a place where people could get together. Coffee was not the product of our.
Coffee was the excuse to go to the place.
Coffee was the excuse to go.
And it was this ritual that you could light on. So if we were sort of culturally into foot rubs, you would have just opened some, like pedicure salon.
Right. And I'm sure we thought about that too, where that could have been a possibility that we could have, I'm not a foot person though.
It's a little less creepy. Although I have been to them. They're creepy.
Go ahead.
No, I got a ticket to one in when we were visiting China, when we were making the square readers.
Were they, with the fish?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the fish. I think that was Korea. God, I don't know. But it was somewhere in China. I remember clearly in China because I think our hosts were just messing with us. Like you can never tell because they, under the guise of manners and showing you their culture, they might just be messing with you, So we couldn't really tell, but it was a excruciatingly painful experience.
What, you were having your pedicure?
Yeah, well, you had a Chinese foot rub, which
a foot massage.
Yeah. And I remember this guy sort of clipping my toenails. I've been on the road for a while, you get those things confiscated by the TSA, you never get another pair. So, I was about to the point where I could climb trees. And this guy looked at my toenails, said something in Mandarin, and then got out this thing that was, it was like he was, turning a bowl on a lathe. He got out this thing that was like that big, and he took off my toenails for this. Why are we talking about this? It's disgusting.
I thought there might be
You can tell I don't do this professionally. I just wanted people to hear your stories because you're getting sort of famous now. You're the famous Howard from the book.
Yeah, page 88.
And I always use coffee as an example of a relatively known business. But you went to the Fancy Foods show,
Mm-hmm.
and you had an insight about the Fancy Food show that I think people would love to hear. It's something I tell all the time, but I'll let you tell it. What is the number one ingredient in the fancy food of the world?
So this was actually so you're skipping ahead quite a bit. This
is not chronological.
No, it's not chronological, but that's okay.
So
when you go, so the Fancy Food Show, just so you know, the Fancy Food Show has traditionally been held in New York City and in I think it's San Francisco, and they have it two places every year. And I was invited to sort of release a new product that I created, which you were very involved in as well. But I wandered around the halls of this immense kind of trade show, and I realized that the most popular ingredient in every category was no sugar, no fat, no gluten, no artificial flavors, nothing. No, there was nothing in these things. And it made my mind just sort of spin. And I realized that this is our society of excess has gotten to a point where no is the most exotic ingredient, the most high demand ingredient.
Yeah, the most highest ingredient. Just don't give me any more of that. So, okay, so that's a great transition because, we're a society of excess where the excess has been sort of stopped.
Right.
I mean, you look at the air around, Mumbai is clear,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are wolves, walking down Main Street in some cities. There are, like, we are as a species temporarily sort of taking it down a level. How much of that do you think is going to come back when you're released? You going to leave the bunker?
I think that's the question that everyone is asking, and really, that's the.
I'm the only one.
Are you going to go back to that restaurant where you're elbow to elbow with people you don't know, and the waiter is hovering over you, and the server is grabbing your glass and picking it up and filling it with water, and is that the experience? That how many these restaurants operate on very narrow margins, very fine dining particularly very narrow margins, because it's a very labor intensive industry. And how many, if you lose say 25% of that customer base, those 25% of those seats are empty now where they would have been full. Is that sustainable for the fine dining industry? Is that sustainable for services like food? And
I mean, food consumption is constant, right? Like, you're going to eat basically the same amount of food, right?
Yes. True.
So we've got that as a constant. And then if you figure that people are going to want to cook for themselves to a certain extent, and then they're just going to be sick of it. I got sick of my own cooking pretty fast. Not as fast as my family.
You're a fantastic cook. You should not be sick of it.
No, you should see the eye rolls I get from. I got a 2-year-old who's dissing my food the other day. I got hit by a tomato.
2-year-old, but with good aim.
No, it's great because at 2, like, that's before the threshold for honesty kicks in. So everything they say is what they believe to be the truth, even if it's like
that's right,
the worst thing they could do. Like, no, daddy, go away. That's what she says. Go away. And she throws a tomato at me. But I mean, like, the point is, we got to get out sometimes. And so
but do we get out to those places? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Does the structure that exists, does the structure the infrastructure that supports these types of experiences, does that come back? in a way that is sustainable. And I don't think so. I think it changes. And one more thing, Jim, to your point about that consumption is a constant. It is, but we also have a whole new category of delivery. Well, aside from just delivery of restaurants, I just had a meal this morning from a company called Daily Harvest, which delivers food that I then finish off myself in my own kitchen. And I don't have to go buy, the exotic ingredients to make these interesting dishes. I just pick from an app and it gets delivered to me a couple of days later, and it's a week's worth of food. And that means a week's worth of, I don't need to go to your expensive restaurant and get coronavirus.
Got it. You can have it delivered. Yeah.
I can have that experience delivered, and it's not Grubhub. It's not, it feels like a safer experience. I am an advocate for restaurants. I love restaurants, but this thing is coming, and the intersection of prime type delivery and coronavirus and foodieism we're right there, and I don't know that bodes well for fine dining.
I wonder because I run an event venue, like Third Degree Glass Factory. My glass studio is mostly in the wedding business. Bar mitzvah weddings, and we have this studio. I was in the studio yesterday making some stuff, but we've got a 20,000 square foot space that we basically rent out to parties because it's fun to have a party in a glass factory.
Yes.
And nobody's having parties these days because they're sort of all locked down. But we're seeing people even now, and the lockdown has not been lifted, calling us up and wanting to come out and get back together. Do you think that just need for humans to connect, and not even connect, but I'll give you an example. Like one of the things that I do, I don't drink coffee, okay?
Right.
Despite the efforts that you and Anna have made to teach me how to appreciate that.
I've been trying for 20 years. And
yeah, and you don't want to see me caffeinated. That my wife has given up because if she gets me to ingest any caffeine, then I'm even more hyper. And it's like living with a raccoon that's found a bag of crack. Like that's what I'm like with a half a latte in me.
Right.
The need for people to get together was so strong, at least in my case, that when I was writing, I used to have to go, because I just spent 3 years writing a book. I would literally leave my house, which is quiet and peaceful and beautiful, and I would fight traffic, cross town, go to a co-working space that was busy and noisy and full of stuff, and I would write there. And there was something about just having that. And these were all strangers because I didn't want to talk to any of them because somebody would come up and wonder, hey, Jim, I think God, I was like a jerk, but I would have to go out to get my brain to go. I think that's what you're selling.
I'm with you. I am missing my co-working space. I am a member of Tech Artista and a very active member, and I love to go there and say hi to my people and work and hear the buzz around me and put on my headphones, and I love that. And a lot of people like to work in coffee shops and have that experience on the Wi-Fi. So I think that is changing though, because again, it really depends on the margins. If how important are these experiences? How important is it? We have again, to use that term, infrastructure. We have this infrastructure that is designed to designed to support a certain number of patrons, whether it's a restaurant or a co-working space or retail experience or bowling out, whatever it is. And there needs to be a certain critical mass of people to make that experience profitable. So either you raise the price, and you sort of thin the masses, but that creates other issues too, because now it's not the same experience. If I walk into a restaurant that's not full, does it feel like I'm having that experience? Is that the same experience?
Did you hear about that 3-star restaurant in New York that's actually putting mannequins in the empty?
I did. I did hear about these. I've heard about these things, and Yeah, that's funny, but
So do you think the race of the mannequin and the gender of the mannequin matters?
um, no, I don't. I don't.
Like, would you eat at a restaurant that was full of mannequins of people you detested, as opposed to like people that you liked?
I would. I would feel. I would feel uncomfortable eating at a restaurant full of mannequins, um, particularly if like I kept getting ignored by the server. And because that happens to me all the time. I raise my hand and like, hey, hey. And if you're in a restaurant full of people that are not animated at all, and you're getting ignored.
Back when I was single and dating, there were many social encounters I had with women that were indistinguishable from me speaking to a mannequin. It's like zero difference.
Yeah. Well, that's a selection error. That's you have to look at look at the pool of whatever. I don't know.
Okay, so you think we're going to get back into restaurants, but the economics may be different, because if just a smaller number of people don't come back, then the model doesn't work. So,
right.
So what gives? Is this the landlords having to cut their rent because now no restaurant can afford it? So just rents drop, or does the staff take a pay cut? I mean, I can't believe you can pay the dishwashers any less. I can't believe the servers are going to be paid any. Like, it doesn't seem like there's much room to squeeze the staff. Where does it get squeezed?
It gets squeezed in there are, I've always believed that there are lots and lots of businesses that don't know they're out of business. And this is even before the pandemic. There's so many businesses that are hanging on, barely able to even cover their expenses. They go away. So
okay.
That's, I don't know, 20%, 20%. So you could capture some of that.
Dead for 20 years and they just realized it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize I was not making, 3 customers come all day, and you have a place to go all day and do your job, but you're not, it's not sustainable. So that's that. So you get it there, you get maybe 20% there, and then maybe you bump your prices a little bit, but you still, at what point does that experience become a challenge? I take the Kaldi, the original Kaldi store. The Demund store, those of you who know it, it's in Clayton, Missouri. It's a lovely neighborhood. It is a very small store, maybe 1,500 square feet gross, 700 and 900 square feet of customer space. And that place gets packed, and it really not ideal for social distancing by any means. There's just choke points everywhere, which is quaint. It's very quaint, but it's also lots of.
You're going to turn people sideways down that hallway to the bathroom. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But it's not just there. There's a hallway, right, that we connected 2 spaces with. There's the door, the main door. That's just like this sort of, you kind of, we all have walked into coffee shops and know that this urban experience is tight. It's very compact, and that's one of the benefits. But now that becomes a health hazard. How much do I need that coffee? Maybe I'll just buy an espresso machine. Maybe I'll just do the drive-through at Starbucks. Kaldi's does not have one drive-through, not one drive-through in the whole system. What does that mean? What does that mean in a relatively low margin industry? It should be
invented like a coffee bong.
Coffee bong.
Coffie bongs. I've been watching this online documentary. What a beer bong
Get
is.
rid of the coffee. Just get the bong.
No. Actually, you're right. No, but I mean, like, these guys, so I'm sorry. I'm St. Louis, Missouri, and there's this reality TV show about the Bush family, and they're like these 2 Bush kids going around, and they take these liters of beer and just jam them through hoses on funnels into their mouth. Mm-hmm. This is when I was growing up, this was the most revered family in my hometown. And they've got this embarrassing reality show going on right now where like the kids are doing this, but they're doing it with beer.
I think they were embarrassing back when we were kids too, but now they have video.
Now they can prove it, right?
Right.
Like what if you invented and popularized a coffee, like a massive coffee ingestion system, Like,
Well, yeah, you could, look at coffee and technology have always gone together nicely. And, we've always had a love-hate relationship with technology in coffee. And what's amazing is what saved the coffee industry in about 10, almost exactly 10 years ago, was this device that we've talked about, the Clover. It was this thing that brought so much energy and excitement to the industry. It was this $11,000 coffee brewer. It was crazy expensive. It made one single cup at a time of coffee. So the automation, the technology was not designed to serve more cups of coffee for speed. It was designed to make the perfect cup of coffee every single time. And then, the problem was that intellectual property was purchased by Starbucks. And all of us who had pioneered this great new single cup technology, this excellent experience, couldn't even buy parts for our machines. So we had this problem. So we couldn't,
how much do you hate Starbucks, Howard?
All right. It's a love-hate relationship, I'll tell you. I hate Starbucks in the context of this story. But what it did is it differentiated us quite a bit. We said, okay, well, we can't have this toy anymore. We're going to have to get something else. And you know what saved the industry was the Chemex. The Chemex coffee brewer, that hourglass shaped thing that is it's called hand brew now in coffee parlance, and it saved the industry, and it's made the industry all about skill. Those who can do it, those who can make a proper hand brew, are really a different industry a different segment than the Starbucks.
So I just had a thought.
Technology is the answer, and it's also the problem.
So and I'm not from the coffee world, certainly, but if you had to ask me what the technology that changed the coffee industry would be, it would not be a coffee technology. It would be the laptop. Because before the laptop computer, if you were in a coffee store, you were either on a really awkward first date or reading.
Right.
You weren't working. You weren't doing something that could be arguably seen of as productive. But now that I've got my desk with me and it's folding up in my, like messenger bag, right? Everyone's got to have one of these things. I haven't been on a bike in a decade, the ability for me to go into a coffee shop and at least appear like I'm working, even if I may not be, or at least have the potential to be working. It's like, well, I do have my work with me, even though I'm watching YouTube. That seems to me to legitimize the space, because when I go into a coffee shop, half the people have laptops out or some other form of, potential work device. Yeah. So if you had to say laptop versus pick your biggest coffee technology, what do you think would be? It's just a theory. I literally just
say the laptop was much more significant because again, it's never really been about the coffee.
No, it's an excuse to get together.
It's an excuse to get a laptop. I don't need a laptop unless I'm going to take that computer somewhere else. The desktop was fine as long as I was home.
Oh, Jesus, you're right.
But I want to take the laptop somewhere. I got nowhere to go. I'll go to the coffee shop. They have Wi-Fi.
So now I can justify having some snaz laptop.
Right. Even if they have garbage, even if their $15,000 espresso machine is down, I can still use the space. I can still get that experience. In fact, I would say that most of that experience is coming to me from that laptop.
So you said something that was really interesting about a lot of businesses are dead and they just don't know it. And I'm thinking about ghost businesses that way. What do you think about ghost kitchens, taking this back into the service and restaurant space? So for those of you who don't know, a ghost kitchen is a branded kitchen that's operated out of some warehouse so for instance, let's say your favorite restaurant offers takeout, okay? And they're on the other side of the city. Well, next to you, they can have a ghost kitchen which is just literally a tiny off-grid kitchen, commercial kitchen, where they're making the same food. They're following the same recipes, so they can deliver you the branded experience, but it's made remotely. So the idea here is, in a world where we all order online and then have delivery, you don't want to pay for the fancy tablecloths. You just want a ghost kitchen. So they're super cheap. And I know Travis, who started Uber, is investing a lot in ghost kitchens. Like, what's your thought on ghost kitchens?
Well, we called them commissaries when before the internet was, this app-driven monster. There's huge value in a commissary kitchen, and Kaldi's, when we first expanded, it took us 11 years to open our second store, and then we opened 4 within a couple months. And one of the stores, the one in Chesterfield Valley, was supposed to be a commissary location, where it wasn't a separate location for the kitchen, but it was a big enough kitchen where we could do the prep for all the stores. We didn't have delivery or anything like that. But the idea is it's very appealing. The problem is you now have to have 2 staffs, at 2 trained staffs. And it's difficult. Staffing in the restaurant industry is very difficult.
Do you know any ghost kitchens in St. Louis? Has it come to the Midwest yet?
There is, I think there was a concept that Dave Bailey had, and I don't think it is around.
Right.
I could be wrong, but there have been. It's very difficult. The natural ghost kitchen, the natural place to have a ghost kitchen would be a church. So what do you need for a ghost kitchen? You need to have what you're calling a ghost kitchen, I'm calling a commissary. You have to have a health inspection, a county health or city health inspection certificate.
Yeah.
You have all that sort of kit that you need to make food in a sort of permitted way, food safety. And so a church is a great place to do that, because every church has a kitchen, and every church kitchen is inspected because they're serving food to the public. So that's the natural, cheap way to go. You can usually rent space. The church is only, once or twice a week, and the rest of the time the place is empty. So you can jump in there and rent that space. And, I see your mind.
No. Because you say this, and I'm thinking right now in my neighborhood, there are literally 4 churches for sale. And these are not like tiny little churches. We bought 2 of them. I own 2 churches.
Right.
One of them was burned down by an arsonist, which was pretty terrible. And the other one is being repurposed into, actually it was not supposed to be a church. So in certain neighborhoods, they take these buildings and they turn them into churches, but it wasn't supposed to be a church. So we're sort of turning it back into, it's going to be an architecture studio. But there are 5 proper churches. I'm talking, 50,000 square foot venues, 40-foot spires, big wooden doors that make you feel like God is vengeance, and you can buy one of these. They're trying to, I know at least 4 of them for sale right now. Would you ever think of starting your own religion?
No. No. I don't have room in my life for religion. I respect it. I think that's great. I grew up religious, and as soon as I had an exit, I took that off ramp. No. But the idea of owning a church, there's going to be plenty of real estate out there. When this pandemic thing settles, there's going to be a lot of stuff available. It's not going to be a matter of I can't find, the right price per square foot. That's not going to be the problem. The problem is what's the demand for whatever I'm going to do in that space? Because, what keeps you from having the same problems that put the previous owner out of business of that property, that made them put their property up for sale? That's the thing for me is what are you going to do? I don't want to start a church. I have thought, a ghost kitchen or commissary, a public commissary where people almost a co-working space for restaurants. I think there is one in development, a co-working space for food.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
And it's a great idea. It's just a form of co-working space, only instead of, open seating, you have open stainless steel tables and ovens.
So we're talking about trends here, and you and I are both in St. Louis, which means we're by definition not trendy,
Right.
because I see the trends starting, overseas in certain cities. I see it starting somewhere in the coasts.
Yep.
But I've always felt like St. Louis has one huge advantage, and that is if something works here, it basically works everywhere. And I know businesses that only work on the coasts. Like my favorite example is this creme brulee truck in San Francisco that's selling these, little bowls of stuff for like $15. It's like $15. Actually, this is a big bowl. This is my cereal bowl.
A little ramekin, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like a hockey puck of
fat.
Yeah,
Sugar.
yeah. But it's
the creme brulee cart.
No, but like this guy has a legit business, because the people in San Francisco, like if they can afford to live in San Francisco, by definition, they've got a lot of pocket cash. Because like when your rent for a single person is $3,000 a month, you better be earning some serious money to even walk the streets there in most cases. And so this guy with his creme brulee truck has a viable business. It's actually a decent business. He's a square. I love him. Good product, but I keep thinking, am I going to see the creme brulee truck, puttering down the streets of Chesterfield sometime? I'm going to run into his, downtown at a Cardinals game.
He's going to make a really good living. He can make six figures standing, with his chef's hat and on the, the Market Street, dishing out, ramekins of hand torched creme brulee. That's great for him there. But scalability, well, maybe you could open another location, 6 blocks away, and maybe it would translate to certain 3 blocks in New York City or in,
Yeah, so there are a few places on the planet that will support his business model, but I don't live in one of them.
Most people don't live in.
Yeah, most people, like most of the population, forget the population outside the United States. Most population in the United States is not in a major city. Most of the population out of the world, I mean, there is an urbanization happening, but when you think about urbanization, you're still not talking about massive wealth creation. So
right.
I've always thought that my city was this fantastic sort of filter on what was serious. Like if it got to St. Louis, then it was serious, which is, I guess, sort of back to the original question, which is, I remember when it was a big deal that Starbucks was about to open their first store. And they opened it in the airport. Remember?
Right. Lambert, no longer international airport.
Lambert, we used to have TWA until, thank you, Carl Icahn, shut that operation down. We ended up with our first Starbucks. So, you could argue that the coffee shop was a trend that worked here. It worked here really well. But the creme brulee truck, probably not.
Not no way, because again, it's about wealth and concentration of that wealth. And the problem with St. Louis is that there's no geographic bounds to our city. It can spread out as far as it'll spread out to, past Kansas, go all the way from St. Louis could sprawl to Kansas to Colorado and to, the Ohio River and north to Chicago and south to, Louisiana. I mean, there's no geographic bounds to the, I should say physical bounds. Whereas in New York City or in San Francisco, you're sort of hemmed in by, geographic features. That's
so
part of
it. Is good.
Yeah. If you're in San Francisco proper, they're not building more San Francisco,
Right.
Whereas we can make a St. Peter's and we can make a Wentzville and we can make a, we just keep going out, and that lowers it really lowers the value of,
you don't have to
everyone out. And now I might buy a creme brulee from the guy, but I'm not going to do it if I live in in St. Charles or Wentzville or, if I have to go 30 miles, how much of a destination is a creme brulee cart going to be?
It's not gonna happen. It's an impulse purchase even in San Francisco. Like the cart's there, you kind of get him. But
is there a line around the block for it though? I mean, how long do I have to wait for a creme brulee?
no, it's not that big.
Right.
You know, there are a couple of because San Francisco has a lot of food trends, and they tend to be pretty cyclical.
Yeah.
I've not seen enduring institutional food out there. I've seen super trendy food, and then 15 places that claim to have invented the burrito, and they're all in the Mission District.
There's a lot of that. Obviously, you have this high. San Francisco is not representative of anything except for San Francisco, but St. Louis is representative of a whole lot of places in the country.
So if you live in a city that is not trendy, what advantage does it give you? And don't say just cheap real estate and all that crap, because we all know that. But
you can be. I wouldn't say that St. Louis isn't trendy. I would say that St. Louis is not. St. Louis has a lot of. St. Louis doesn't, as an overall, St. Louisans don't appreciate being on the bleeding edge of these trends, but that just creates opportunity. Like, no one ever wrote me a letter saying I'd like a $5 cup of coffee. No one ever said that. But when we created something like that, even in St. Louis, people lined up for it.
That was amazing. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're a huge success story in this town, and your business is sort of the place to get caffeinated in St. Louis, Missouri. And you had to do that without something to copy from. Because it wasn't like, oh, well, there are 15 other high-end coffee shops, let's just open another one. There was nothing in that category.
Yeah. Well, it evolved.
You didn't have any experience in the coffee business. You were a journalist. How the hell did you get away with that?
I credit my partner, Suzanne, with a lot of it. She had a vision. We shared a vision in some areas, but she really knew the type of cuisine that we should serve and could serve. So there's a difference, It's like,
okay, so you created this.
You can serve something doesn't mean you should, and just because you should serve something doesn't mean you can. The coffee house fare is it's really hard to make good food profitably in a tiny little galley kitchen like that we have at our Kaldi's. But, we realized, it's really kind of like a daily bake sale that we have every day. We have this ongoing bake sale in addition to having good coffee. But we started off, we didn't know what we were doing. And it was timing. We only had to know a little bit more than our customers. I would say that I didn't know how to operate the espresso machine when we first opened. I mean, I knew how to operate, like press the buttons, and I knew what they did, but the skill, it's like I could throw a bowling ball down the alley, but doesn't mean I know how to, like, I'm going to win a championship or be competitive. I could operate the espresso machine. I could press the button on the coffee brewer, but I didn't know how to sort of identify and adjust the inputs to create a great experience. But at that time in 1994, my customers didn't know that. They knew Jiffy Lube coffee that they'd get for free waiting for the oil to be changed, or the free coffee in their office, or the coffee at McDonald's. And, all of which was really all about cheap and hot. That was the bar. Well, all we had to do was cheap, hot, and with a smile, and we win. So, and then as the bar started going up, we started kind of improving our skills. We'd hire someone who was really kind of geeky about coffee, and then they'd bring us along. And, before we knew it, we're hosting the Midwest Barista Competition at Third Degree Glass, which changed our business.
And it changed our business too. That was the first time I think we hosted a professional event. Like, there were all these private events, and that was a professional event. And I still have this vision in my head of you dressed in camo or green, like barking orders at half a dozen assistants as you walked, and they V'd out behind you like a flock of migrating geese. It's it's just burned into my head, just watching you walk and talk backwards at the people who are trying to keep up with you. You're doing this. This is Howard Lerner, the most total badass entrepreneur that I know.
I had like 6 weeks to like put this thing together, and I think we needed to upgrade your electric panels, and we really needed to just basically rebuild the space into something.
Rebuild my studio because it was built as a studio, not as a
4 big espresso machines set up, and that takes a lot of power. And then we had to have, all kinds of space for judges, and had water access. We had to have special water filters, all that stuff had to be done. And
well, I wasn't planning to build the Iron Chef studio down on Del Mar, but it sort of happened. Howard, man, thank you so much for your time. Last question.
Yeah.
What gets you out of the bunker?
Well, when will I feel comfortable? I do take my walks, and I do, but I miss my gym. I miss my people. I miss my co-working space, and
I miss my Howard.
I miss my gym, my GYM and my JIM. But what will make me feel comfortable scares me a little, because I don't want to get sick, and I don't want, if I have been exposed, I don't want to make others sick.
Yeah.
And I have an 83-year-old mother who relies on me to some extent, and on whom I rely too, she's my mom. So I don't want I don't want to put anyone at risk, and I don't want to be at risk. So, I will feel comfortable when we have, I will feel 100% comfortable when we have herd immunity. We're all been exposed to this thing, and on the other end of this, or by vaccine, we have immunity. That's the bar that I'm shooting for. Less than that, my behaviors will change. My patterns will change. Everything, those sweet days of looking around and wondering where the hand sanitizer is, or do I have a mask? I lost my mask the other day on a walk. I just fell out of my pocket while I was walking, and I went to pick it up as I was walking back into my building, because we have a building rule about having a mask on. I didn't have it, and I panicked. I had to, I haven't panicked about losing a mask since like Halloween when I was 6. This was a terrible thing, and it creates new stress. And now I've got something else to be stressed about. And I'm fortunate. There are a lot of people out there that are stressed already. And so what's going to bring us, the cautious 25%, back into probably immunity of some sort.
All right, man. See you over Zoom, Howard. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
All right. Bye.